Hello, everyone. Welcome to July office hours for app development. My name is Harris. I'm a Dynatrace app development advocate here in rainy Vienna. Today with me is my colleague and design ops specialist, Eugenio. Eugenio, hello. How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, doing good. Eugenio, do you want to give a short introduction about yourself? What do you do?
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Eugenio. I'm a design operations specialist here at Dynatrace. And now my focus will be enabling people in design and experience and also advocating for it. That's why I'm here today with you.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have Eugenio here. Today is also going to be a little bit a special session, special office hours. We're going to have a new topic, a new theme, kind of. So we're going to see what we're going to cover today, and Eugenio is here to help me out. Now, my slide should appear magically here on the screen, and then we can see a little bit what we're going to do today, and the new things that we're going to learn. So. The usual expectations in the session, we're going to have some latest news about the app development, interesting highlights, and of course a place for your questions that you can ask at any time, no matter what platform you're watching us from. A reminder, the last time we also featured the Dynatrace Partner App Competition is open for 2025. If you are a Dynatrace partner, you can nominate and submit your app for the app competition, and our jury of app experts will evaluate this based on some criteria, and then a winner will be picked by end of August. The link will be shared in the chat as well by our amazing Kerry. You can sign up until the 29th of August, so you still have about 2 full months to sign up for the partner app competition. It will be running. The winners will be announced in October 2025, and these are some of the criteria that will be judged upon from your app. So the innovation and uniqueness, business need, user experience, and design. That's an important one. Today is a session for you if you're lacking this part. The best practices, app completeness, and the judge's choice. There will be some prizes, and the master prize to the first place is going to be the Perform Free Pass and accommodation for 3 nights for 1 person. The second and third prizes are going to be some swag packs, including notebooks, pens, water bottles, and backpacks from Dynatrace. So feel free to submit your app if you already have something. Again, 29th of August is the deadline. Okay, moving on to the news, latest news and breaking changes. We've also announced this last time, but the Strato Design System 2.0 is being released, or already has been released last week. The rollout has begun at the end of June. And it's really important that if you have components that you're using, to change them, because a lot of them, well, not a lot of them, but there are some breaking changes such as data table and simple table that are being completely removed. So if you have those, your code will probably break. So make sure that you check out this. The link will be shared with you. Now, moving on, we're going to take a look at design, layout, and navigation. Eugenio will start with the design layout, and we're going to go through it, and I will take over with navigation. Now, Kerry will do some magic and switch our presentations here, and Eugenio should be ready to take over. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Harris. Yes, today I want to bring a bit about design and experience. I know that this may be something very well known by everyone already, but what I want to bring here is also the concepts around this on our design system, Strato, and how you can also use it. And if maybe you have some questions, we can answer them as well. This is very important because it's like kind of the foundation of how you structure your app. And in the end is how you put all the information in the right places. So you can make it easy for the users to understand the things about your app. and also using them. Cool. So first, as Harris mentioned, we'll talk about layout. And here, it's the bare bones of your app, is how you're going to structure this, and also will help you with some great tools out of the box, like responsible layouts. And this is all to make your app very accessible, very responsible, and that people enjoy it as well. Cool. Starting with responsive layouts, I think also this is very well known, but also to you to be aware that like Dynatrace supports the different resolutions, different devices. And here is not just about like having the ability to do this, but also to understand when to enable and disable. Because depending on your target audience, your use cases, you might not have the need of a mobile version because like it's too much information. It could be too small for the users to see it. Maybe a tablet would be sufficient. So then you can play around and understand how the responsive layouts fit your needs. And this is also like the bare bone, as I mentioned, for us to create the rest of the application. With the responsive layouts, you have also grid and flex capabilities, and the grid is to split how you want to display the data or the information about your app in different columns, for example, and the flex, you can have multiple horizontal and vertical areas to display all the information needed in your app. Here, centered versus full width layouts. Also, maybe it seems like very straightforward, but depending on the amount of data that your app provides, you might go on a centered layout because you really want for people to focus on specific things. And maybe if you have like a full width layout, it creates a lot of white spaces. And then these white spaces, even though it's like just empty spaces, can also distract the users, or they need to, with the eyes, for example, navigate too much between left and right to find information. But also the opposite, using the full width layouts help you to distribute more the elements or the components of your app. If you have multiple charts, for example, you want to display them side by side, maybe having the full width is good because then you can really make good use of the real estate. Something very important, I think this is the core of today, is the visual hierarchy of display information on your app. So with our design system, the Strato, you have the ability to display the information in different layers, and the different layers is not just about where they are, but it's also help you to structure and put the content of your app in the, let's say, the right place. And with this, you can also benefit from all of the design system capabilities. So we have four different layers. We have the base, surface, container, and field. And we're going to cover here more in the concept and overview. And if you need details more about the concept about this for different hierarchy of our structure or go deeper into the components, you can always check out our documentation. Awesome. So the base is pretty much straightforward. It's like the background of your app is where everything goes. But still is very important to understand what is the base and why it's there. It's to hold all the information. And as mentioned about the centered and full layout width, here is where you can make the use of the real estate and make the use of white spaces. And the base will kind of hold and as all the other parts of the application, such as the surfaces. So surfaces are the primary space or area that content will be placed on. So here you can make a use of the surface to really organize the content. You can make use the flex and grid properties to split into different columns, however you want to display the content for your users. And with the surface, you can also benefit from elevation to create a bit more depth and weight of information of your app. So number one, for example, is the default elevation. So it's when you're displaying most of the content on your app. But if you want to highlight something, you want to bring attention from the user to a specific part, specific surface of your app, you can use the second one, that is a bit more highlighted. And the third one is especially used for this kind of actions or the prompt the user to import information. So it's even more elevated and creates the idea of depth on your app. So it's mostly used for app menus or action menus. The next one is containers. So containers can go into surfaces, but can also go into the base. And the containers are primarily used to display this short content, something that is highlighting an event that happened, caught the user's attention, but it's to make sure you group smaller pieces of information. And containers can also be used inside surfaces, depending on your use cases. And the good thing of the container is that you can get out of the box some semantics. So if you need to display that a form has been submitted successfully, you don't need to create this from scratch. We already have this out of the box with Strato, and the containers you can also benefit from icons and styles as well. You don't need to dip into the documentation, understand which icon I should use for this kind of situation, which are the design token, the colors. It's all for you already out of the box if you're using the container component. The same is for emphasizing the content. So we have three different approaches when we want to emphasize the content in a container. And here we have in the first part, the three differences between them, default, emphasize, and accent. And in the left side, you see how we can play around with the two first ones, the default and emphasize, to create a better visual aspect of a container. So inside a surface with the white background, you see that we have logs as the title, and then like app name and description and things like that as like the secondary content. So you can make it the default as the container and the title emphasize to bring the attention from the user to that. But also maybe something very important happened, something is failing, or you have a major failure, and you really want to highlight this to the user because it's extremely important and time sensitive. For example, you can use the accent emphasis here to really caught their attention. And this is just to give an overview also how those containers, their composition in interactivity are. So you can get out of the box the paddings already. So this is something for you to ensure that the readability of the app content is good. You don't need to be aware or pay attention, like how should I use in this situation or that situation? Is it like 16 pixels on the padding, 8, 12? So you can get this out of the box. And depending on your needs, you can also interact with the containers. So we have also out of the box different states. So you can really highlight that experience for your users. Cool. Now we have fields, and fields is a bit different because fields is more like a concept than an actual component. So you can think that all of the components that we build, they are kind of fields. And the fields are elements that hold a very specific type of content, a small group of content. So in this case, as an example, a button can be a field. So as I mentioned, there is no field component per se, but it's the idea how you're going to structure that component button in this example using the field concept. So you see here we have at the top add monitoring, we have as a button, we have the three dots as a extra button as well to open the action menu. And in the content upload extension, again, another button. But then you have a chip component to highlight that there are two broken extensions in your monitoring infrastructure. And then we also use the field component to bundle input fields, for example, in this case, like the search, the select as well. So all of this, the concept of field is how you combine and group those small elements that in the end transforms into a component. And also out of the box, thinking about semantics, we also can control those fields with different kind of visualization. The same thing from the container, if you need to highlight something that is bad or something that is good, or even something is neutral, you can use this out of the box. So it's a good thing that we have this already, because then your app gets really consistent. You don't need to think about which tone of red is the alert in this situation, that situation, and even dark and light mode. Again, same as the container, we also have emphasis on our components. For the buttons, you can see here that the accent on add monitoring is our primary action that we want users to take in this example, because when you open this, is add monitoring is the first step, the first action we want them to take. But as a secondary, as a like emphasize, they can also upload the extension. So it's like a secondary kind of action. So you can use the different emphasis to highlight what you want users to do first or second. And the same thing, again, in the container, we have composition and interactivity. Again, something for your information, not specific, like you need to know which padding is for this or that situation. Is just to show that those kind of properties and capabilities are already out of the box. And the same for the interaction with the elements. Cool. Another one, the last one, are dividers. This is pretty straightforward. We have dividers as part of our layout because we also believe that this is a way for breaking the content and also creating a better visualization of the content, right? So in this example, you're just making sure that the top part of your app is about the title, what is this app about, a primary action and more actions, and then everything is in the above the divider can be something that is changing all the time depending on your app and the information you want to display. So it really creates like this mental model where like, okay, I have this top part, and then I know that the bottom are things that are changing or is where I can get the data that I need. And the same idea on the dividers we use for the table component, because then we create the lines, but the idea is the same. You are like splitting the content into a visual way and people can understand where things are. Cool. And last but not least, spacing. It's also very important. Again, creates this mental model for the user. If you give more spaces, they understand that like it's breaking like a line when they're reading a documentation, for example. And here we have as design tokens as well out of the box. You don't need to create manual spacers. We already have this. And they also have a meaning and a concept behind this. So for example, we have the app title and a description, and then a 32 pixels vertical spacing here is really to show like, okay, this is done. Now to the next part of the application, where you can see in the last example on the menu add monitoring, you see that the spacing between the items, manage technologies and remove monitoring, it's 0 because it's very close and you want to bring the attention to the user that there are many options here. Imagine if you had like a 32 vertical space here, it would be like a very large menu and things would be like spread out with a lot of white spacing. So we also think about this, how the mental model for the users is, and how we can really direct them to the most important information and how they will read the information on the page. And the same is true for typography. We have our DT flow font type where you can also download, you can use it. And we also have the spacings for the font, again, to create this mental model, but also to keep it visually beautiful as well. Cool. All right, that is my part. And then if we are good, I will hand over to Harris to talk about the navigation.
Yeah, thank you, Eugenio. That was a lot of information.
Yes.
A lot of useful information as well. I hope that our listeners and viewers will be able to get useful stuff out of it. Now you built everything kind of in the background. You showed us the concepts of how we should put the app layout, and hopefully that our users do create this layout. I see one question. Kerry, can you bring out that last one from Ashish. Yes. So is this app engine? So the app engine itself is not. Eugenio, I don't know if you want to answer this, but
No, you can go ahead.
yeah, okay. So the app engine itself is not responsible for the design. For the design, it's mainly the Strato components that make all of this possible. But yes, it is the app engine, the new apps and new platform that we have. So it definitely is incorporated in the whole idea. Did I say everything right? Did I miss anything, Eugenio?
Oh, good. Thanks.
Okay, good. So now, what's really important when you create this very high functional layout that we just shown and that Eugenio talked us through is to have really good navigation that makes sense for you and the users that are using it without having to explicitly explain everything to them or have a long onboarding process to the app. So one really key concept when creating your app is to create very fluent navigation that will take the user, naturally through, and they expect things to be there where they expect them. So what we're going to go through is going to be the navigation for the apps now, and using these consistent navigation patterns and the logical structure for the information provides very predictable way for the users to navigate and interact with your app. And we can differentiate 4 different groups of these elements, which are the hierarchies, navigation levels, the app home, which is the home, and then navigation components. We do have one question from Narendra. Is there any AI tool involved in developing the app? No. From the side of Dynatrace, I cannot really say that. I don't think so. I don't know. But you can definitely use AI to help you with creating Dynatrace apps. Now, we also have the Copilot, which is always being worked on to help with Dynatrace app creation. But I believe that AI tools, which do have the access to our developer portal, can definitely help you with creating, considering that you can create your apps in JavaScript and TypeScript, and then in React for the front end and our React component. So it's definitely doable. And I've tried using Copilot, and it does help sometimes with some stuff. So definitely you can use AI tools, but there is no built-in, so you cannot generate really code in Dynatrace just using AI. This is not something that is, but Copilot is working towards that way to help users really create app functions. For example, I think that Copilot can actually make that they can actually make you an app function there that you can copy paste. But it's always work in progress, and we're trying to improve that. Now you can check it out. There is documentation for that. I hope that helped. Hope that I answered your question, Narendra. Now, moving on, we're going to go through each one of these groups, and you'll see what I mean. Now, the first the first group that we're going to cover is going to be the navigation hierarchies. We're going to have 3 types of the navigation hierarchies, and the first one is going to be flat. So the flat hierarchy just basically tells you that all of the content and structure of your application has no hierarchy. It's a little bit counterintuitive because it is a flat hierarchy, but it's also no hierarchy. It basically means everything is flat and that you can consume the app in any order. So it doesn't really matter where you click. Your app content pages are going to be differentiated clearly, and your app is going to have 6 or 8 pages and not more than that. So these points are essential to make sure that the users see all of the app pages in correct order, and that they understand what am I going to use each page for. Now, the next one is going to be the nested one. So that means you have a main one, and then you can go into either one of these. It also looks like a tree. So it's like a tree structure. It implies that content has a hierarchy, and you have to consume it in specific order. As you can see here, to reach A1, you first have to go to the A, and then you reach A, and then you can also go further down. So what you need to make sure when you have this is to ensure that all of the users that are using it know the location of a page within the hierarchy. This is very fun because you will see how we actually have other components which enable the users or enable you as the app creator to put this view into the app. And since these pages are organized like a tree-like structure and could be deeply nested, they need the help to get themselves orientated. This will be beneficial when they also share the links with the others who don't know or who haven't used the app, so that when they go there, they understand where they are in. Now, the final and the third one is going to be the combined hierarchy. Basically, a lot of complex apps have a content structure that really combines both flat and nested. And what you need to do is you need to take all of the best practices for both flat and nested when you're using the combined hierarchy. Moving on to the deeper level of the hierarchy of the navigation, we're going to have two navigation levels. The first one is the primary navigation level. This refers to the app's main navigational entry points. As you've seen in the flat, so these are the ABCs. So the top level of the entry points of the app, also called pages, from which users can actually click and then move deeper into the hierarchy. Then we have the second hierarchy, or secondary navigation, which refers to the navigation elements that lead into the deeper points of your app. So these are the subordinate to the main entry points. And what's really important is that if you're at the A1.2, that the user knows that they're actually there and how they track back and go back to the C or vice versa. Now, another group, which is kind of a long group, is the app home. When the users open the app for the first time, this is the main screen. This is always you land on the app home page, and this page communicates the purpose and provides users with immediate value. And we were talking earlier, and Eugenio, you had a very good point. Maybe once you see also the components that are for the navigation, makes even more sense. But Eugenio mentioned that you should always use this page for the actual homepage. And maybe I will move on right now just to show the app header. And Eugenio, can you tell me what you told me earlier about the cases where you see people copying the home again?
Yeah, of course. So this is very something that happens, and it's common. We usually try to use the app name as the homepage. And we already saw that this is something that happened. The first tab is also like a homepage. And then you have either duplicated link or it's missing that homepage. So what we always suggest is you can create a homepage, as Hans mentioned. And in here, you can either have like onboarding if it's the first time of the user coming to the app, but also you can display some summary information depending on the use cases. And then the first screen, the tab 1, should be where users, they start their journey. So it can be something more the detailed side of the data, or something that they need to narrow down the data, filter, so they can get to the information that they're looking for. And then all the other tabs can provide other features and functionalities. But then whenever I click on the app icon or the app title, I can go back to that place. And as Faris mentioned, in sharing the content with others, if you share the homepage, either if like they are new to the app, they will get this onboarding as mentioned. But then if you share like the first page, they will directly go there and get the information that they need. You can also share the link with the data already filtered, for example. So it's really important to ensure that like this navigation works, because it's kind of a natural mental model, I would say, that like the title of the app is actually the home. And then the other pages, you're navigating to the different features and functionalities of the app. I think I covered
Yeah.
what we talked about, right? Nice.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. I also checked the code, and in the code, actually, the app.tsx is a file which correlates with your app, and whatever you name it, that should be kind of the home. That usually people make it into, from tab 1, they make another home, and then they explain. So once we discussed this, I also saw that clearly the best practice is to put your app, what is currently on the screen as your app, should be used as the home, and then the rest of the pages or the tabs here should be where the user starts the journey, just like you said. So yeah, now this is the app header. This is the first navigation component that helps you create a consistent experience. It includes this set of horizontal tabs. I like to call them pages, because they're in the code. For all of you that create apps, you know that it's called there is a folder called pages, which are shown as tabs here. It's basically the primary navigation in the app, and the users can click one of these and then they move deep down into the hierarchy. Additionally, this also displays as the app's title, and then that's the app's homepage. You want to use this kind of for the flat navigation hierarchy, where you have only a few main navigational entry points. And what we said, the recommendation is to have not more than 6 to 8 of these pages listed. Otherwise, you want to break it down and have things go into the depth and not go into the width of having a really big. Otherwise, you might need another application. Now, another component here is going to be the breadcrumbs, which is the horizontal list, which kind of chains. So it shows the path of the user's current location from where they started. So this really plays a vital role in the ability for the user to orient themselves, especially if you get a link and you paste it into your browser, you open it, and then you have no idea how somebody got there. You really want to use this kind of component to show to the user where they are and how do they get back in case they have to move back between different levels. So deeply nested navigations, once you go down into the depth, you really want to use breadcrumbs. What else you can use is tabs. And these are not to be confused with the app header. So app header is more like different pages where you start, and tabs are where you put your content into multiple different sections. So if you have kind of relevant content, but then you want to switch between different kind of situation or scenarios for the same content, you want to divide it into sections, and then you want to make sure that users feel that they can switch between these really quickly. And still be in the same context. So you're still at the same level, you're still in the same app, but you just want to switch the section.
And if I might add, we use that a lot in Dynatrace Apps because the complexity of the data, it's a lot. And then this is how we also divide into easy ways for the user to understand what's happening and what they can get. We also understand their mental models to put those information into tabs. But also what another use for this is to bring data or information from other apps, and then we put them in the tabs. And this is also a good way if you have like more than one app and you want to correlate data, then you can use this, because depending on an entity, you're seeing something, but from that other app perspective, it can be a different data. So instead of you directing users or opening a new tab, a browser tab, so you show the different app with the same entity, you can bring all the information or just like a piece of the information necessary for that scope into a tab. So then it's still in the same context, so it can increase and improve the user experience.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy for the users to consume this kind of apps where you see, okay, once you click a couple of times and once you get used to the UI of Dynatrace, it's actually rather easy to understand, okay, this doesn't go away if I click between these, and it's always, really quick to go back, rather than if you move to the levels or you move through the apps, you go complete another section and you're entering a new page. So as you said, tabs are really good and efficient way to quickly move between. There is two more components. One is a menu. So the menu is just a list of links or actions from which you can choose from which user can choose and do something. You want to group related navigational elements or reveal, progressively more options to the user. The grouping helps the user to kind of have the clean interface, and also from being overwhelmed. Usually it's going to be in the surface level only with 3 dots, so it doesn't distract you. And by the general sense, users tend to know that behind these option buttons there is more stuff that you can check, so settings, or doing some actions which you don't want to display on the main board for distraction. And then the last one but not least is the links. They allow you to navigate between pages, and one of the recommendations is that you want to, whenever the URL of the app changes, you want to use the link, and you don't want to use buttons to actually navigate through the app. So you always want to use the link, and also for accessibility reasons, it's always easier to identify links. And if somebody is using accessibility options, it's much easier to set it up than if you use a button to navigate through pages. And yeah, and there was one more point, Eugenio, you made about links.
Yes. So also we have ways of displaying data in different ways. So for example, in a table cell, if you have many tags about an entity, for example, but it doesn't fit in the screen, our components, they already truncate and say like +8 more, and then the user can click or mouse over and see the others there. So don't try to avoid using link for situations like that. As Hades mentioned, we can even use like buttons in some cases or other elements, but the link should be explicit for linking to external pages, or when I say external, can be like different pages, as you mentioned, right? And it was a good point that you brought, Hades, about the accessibility, because we have our components are the WCAG ready, and we have all the necessary information from the code point of view that tells people that this is the link. So if you use link for different purpose, can also confuse the users that need of this information.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And yeah, I read that we are the VACG or WCAG compatible throughout.
Yeah.
So that would be it. Those are all of the main components. Now, if you want to check a little bit more, our plan, our idea was to check a little bit more, but in case you want to read, you can check all of this, what we talked about today, in our developer portal at design page. You can find a lot of more information about the Strato design system and all of these concepts and ideas that Eugenio and I covered today. Now, in case you're interested, and in case you have any questions, in case you have concepts that you're confused about, Eugenio, you mentioned we really want all of our users to come out in case they have some ideas that they're struggling with, and that we can help them find the best use case with the different components that we have, and maybe see also that in case they're struggling with something, maybe there is also a use case which we haven't covered and that could be covered either using a component, or we can suggest it to internal team that maybe they can implement something that can
exactly. Yeah, and you can also suggest some components that you want us to review here, because it's not just about implementing them and the documentation, but also is understanding why they were created and the concept behind the components. That also makes it easier to use and know where to use based on your use cases.
Yeah. So if you have if you're using anything, or if you're not sure when to use something, please reach out, give us your input and your thoughts, and we'll be happy to help you out. And again, thanks, Eugenio, for joining. It was really super fun. We have a couple of more slides. Sorry, Kerry. I just want to remind about a couple of different things. We have released the 24th developer newsletter. David also from our team, has made a couple of good points, again reminding you for the Strato components that have been released, so the Strato 2.0, Dynatrace app toolkit changes, and so there is really important release highlights in the past couple of weeks that have happened, so please check them out in case you have some code you want to check, you want to fix that. Then again, the links for the partner app competition are going to be shared there, so that's going to be also a reminder to check that. You also have Tech Radar and Deploy Your Guide updates. So if you're curious, give it a read and let us know what you think. And you can find all of the information again in the developer blog. So you can find all of the previous newsletters as well as the app competition information in more detail there. So if you have something, Claire will share all of the links with you at the end. And if we have any questions, of course, feel free to send them. We're going to have another office hour on 12th of August at the same time as now. You also have available all of the other resources in case you want to check out. And of course, we're always available for you in case you have any questions about app development or design, as we have now Eugenio in the team, so he can help us out a lot with the concepts and ideas and actually implementation details, so we can figure it all out together. And thanks again, Eugenio. Thank you, Kerry, for helping us in the background, and thank you all for joining. That would be it from me. Have a good one, and see you next month.